Last year, I was asked to run a Halloween-themed Dungeons & Dragons one-shot, and I went all out, creating D&D parody versions of famous horror movie villains for the players to embody, and writing an adventure where those villains come together to infiltrate a famous monster hunter's party. This year, I'm picking up my notes and turning them into a full TTRPG mini-module that you can download and run at your table completely for free. You can find links in the description, but stick around, because this video documents my process, sharing what I've learned along the way, and giving you an intro to the monsters and mysteries you might be taking on this Halloween. When my friends asked me to run a Halloween one-shot, I didn't know where to start, until I came up with the idea of adapting horror movie icons into D&D characters. My friends who were hosting are big into their horror movies, so we started trading ideas back and forth. What if Wednesday Addams was a hexblade warlock? What if the creature from the Black Lagoon was a lizard folk druid? I barely had time to pitch these characters before Adam, one of our players, started churning out some absolutely gorgeous character art. I love every one of these, and I quickly realized I would have to build player characters worthy of this art. It was a really fun collaboration where Adam's visual design informed my mechanical choices. He made Frankenstein's sword flash with lightning, so of course I wrote in that it was forged from the lightning rod that brought him to life. Sorry, did I say Frankenstein? I meant Frank E. Stein, because legally these are all parodies. This right here is Thursday Adam. I decided to make all the characters level 5 so I could give them interesting spells and abilities without overwhelming the players, some of whom were quite new to D&D. With Halloween coming up quick, I probably should have just used the standard D&D character sheet to save time, but part of the idea was to give everyone a random character, so I really wanted it to be easy to grab one and start playing. And to be frank, I've never found the standard D&D character sheet particularly inviting or helpful to new players. For the Curse of Strahd campaign I'm in, I made little custom binders for me and my partner, and I invented my own layout, which I thought gives a somewhat better overview than the standard character sheet. I've always loved games where all the information you need can be presented and tracked on one page, and with the exception of spell descriptions, that's what I shot for with these monster characters. You might have sussed out my background in tabletop role-playing games by looking at my background. This map is from the popular actual play show Dimension 20. This is the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender from the Avatar role-playing game. And this is from the Swedish game Eon, or rather from an expansion that was mostly maps. When decorating my office, I wanted it to feel like the home of a fantasy cartographer, a sort of hub between different imaginary worlds. And these are all, in their own ways, places that I've visited. Because I've been playing tabletop role-playing games, or TTRPGs, since I was under the age of 10.
Couldn't find a frame big enough for that one.
Bizarrely though, I never played Dungeons & Dragons until just a few years ago. Let me explain. Sweden is a nation of nerds. With a population of only 10 million, the country punches well above its weight in cultural and technological exports. And there's no great mystery to this. Sweden is a wealthy country with a historically robust social safety net, allowing people to take chances on creative careers. Maybe the long winters also encourage people to become obsessive in their interests, but point is, it's a country full of nerds. So when the first Swedish TTRPG arrived in the 1980s, it was a hit. You'd be forgiven for thinking this is a translation of Dungeons & Dragons, but Drakar och Demoner is its own game, with some particular Swedish quirks, like our obsession with ducks. Other homegrown Swedish games followed, and in the 1990s there was an explosion of game design. While elsewhere, religious leaders were engaged in a satanic panic, condemning D&D as the path to hell, the Swedish church actually got in on the action, producing a series of surprisingly well-designed TTRPGs that all include tricky moral choices for the players to discuss after each session.
I've probably had this book for 30 years, and it's not bad. One of the first tabletop role-playing games I ever played.
Instead of one game holding cultural dominance, everyone seemed to be designing their own games, and I was no different. Me and my friends would come up with an idea for a tabletop game on a Monday, design a new character sheet during the week, and then play that game on the weekend. We built systems to play Zelda, Dragon Ball, a Pokemon parody game. Before we get into the plot of this one-shot, let me give you a breakdown of the player characters. First, we have Thursday Adam, who is a witchy teen and a pretty good fighter, so I thought she fits the bill for a Hexblade warlock, and I made her Pact of the Chain to give her a familiar. Usually this would be a shapeshifter, but we'll just flavor that as thing growing and shrinking and wearing little costumes. Of course, she's charisma-based because isn't she everyone's favorite Addams Family character? And her spells include Hex, Vampiric Touch, and Fear. I know the new show isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I had to include a little nod with her morbid dance ability, where once per short rest she can make a performance roll in combat to impose disadvantage on attack rolls. I also gave her advantage on intimidation when making deadpan or morbid remarks at the DM's discretion.
I've decided to scalp you and burn your village to the ground.
I already told you about Frank's cool lightning rod greatsword, which adds some serious electric damage on a critical hit, but did I mention that he's a warforged, meaning he doesn't need to eat, sleep, or even breathe? I made him a battlemaster fighter with a folk hero background, so he's got superiority dice on top of all the normal fighter stuff, and the armor built into his body gives him the traditional stealth disadvantage. Though Frank probably can't get drunk, he usually carries a big stein of ale to put people at ease, which is what earned him the name Frank E. Stein. Next up is Freddy Krueger, or Frederick Crouton. None of these standard playable races were a good fit, but night hags in 5e can shift into the ethereal plane, inflict you with nightmares, and they've got a vicious claw attack. So it is a perfect fit, I just had to nerf those abilities a bit. Making him a School of Illusion wizard gives him access to all sorts of thematic spells like Sleep, Fear, and Hypnotic Pattern, and Nightmare is a 5th level spell, maybe a little overpowered, but what's the point of even making this build if I don't let him cast Nightmare once per day? I don't want to play favorites, but this next one is my favorite. We were trying to think of a dark version of Casper the Friendly Ghost, and we came up with the name Casper, the Friendly Ghoul. That name brought to mind a sort of Eastern European knockoff, and it also inspired what I can only refer to as Casper voice, which my partner got stuck in last year for a number of weeks. What you're about to hear is an audio message she sent me, completely unprompted, fully in character as Casper.
I come to the material plane, I look for work. There's a Casper, you cannot work as a ghost. You are corporeal, you have to be incorporeal. I say I'm incorporeal 3 times per day, no problem. But no, poor Casper.
He's a Twilight Domain cleric, so on theme with his friendly nature, he can grant allies dark vision and advantage on initiative, in addition to the usual healing. When he casts Spirit Guardians, it summons the spirits of his 3 uncles. He can actually do this for free once per day, but then he has to succeed on a charisma save or his uncles will bully him instead of his enemies. Casper also has an ectoplasm potion, which, much like in the film, can turn ghosts corporeal or, on the recently deceased, cast Revivify.
There he is!
This isn't the creature from the Black Lagoon, it's the creature from the Back Lagoon, which is just round the back from where his more famous brother lives in the Black Lagoon. Don't worry about it though, they're always getting mixed up and it doesn't even hurt his feelings anymore. Making him lizard folk was kind of a no-brainer. It gives him a bite attack, he can hold his breath for 15 minutes, and usually lizard folk have a 30-foot swim speed, same as on land, but that's a bit boring, so I slowed him down on land and sped him up in water. He's a Circle of the Land swamp druid, giving him some appropriate free spells and the ability to pass through difficult terrain with ease. I also gave him advantage on perception checks relying on smell, mostly because I felt bad about mixing him up with his brother.
Hi, I'm Chuckie. Wanna play?
The first question when adapting Chuckie is whether he's a doll or not. I decided to make him a gnome who used to work in a puppet show pretending to be the puppet. Then he killed his puppeteer and ran off with the cash. Arcane Trickster Rogue is a good match for this sneaky voodoo practicing murderer, and it provides him with some appropriate spells like Charm Person and Tasha's Hideous Laughter, alongside a vicious sneak attack with his dagger. Inspired by the Heart of Damballa, he has a charm that provides resistance to necrotic damage and allows him to bestow Curse without using a spell slot. Last but not least, I had to get a gremlin in there. Gremlins Goblins, they even sound similar, and the goblin features Fury of the Small and Nimble Escape, allowing extra damage and a quick exit, are both perfect for this little green hooligan. As for class, Barbarian Berserker felt like a must, letting him do some serious dual-wielding damage with his 2 chainsaw-looking cleavers. Reckless attack also makes a lot of sense, and just for fun, I gave him a bag of rotted meat and some explosive fireworks. I had these characters ready to go about a week before Halloween, but I didn't actually have a plot. My only idea was that they'd be brought together in a Suicide Squad-esque team to save Halloween, or whatever I decided to call Halloween in this fantasy world, but I had a really hard time cracking what the adventure was actually about, and it stayed that way until just a few days before the session. That is when I figured out that the villain of this one-shot had to be a monster hunter, and I knew just the man for the job. When in doubt, recycle old ideas. Chimera College is an old webcomic of mine that never quite got off the ground. It's set in a school for monsters where everyone fears the vicious humans who live on the other side of a great big wall. It features a cast of werewolves, vampires, ghosts, elementals, and all sorts of other beasts navigating teenage hormones and mortal peril. Chimera College had many iterations. I wrote several comics, an animated short film, even the first draft of a young adult novel, and every time I look back on these sketches, I do want to pick it back up again because it was always just brimming with fun. I mean, here are some zombie gangsters. How great is that? But most relevant to this D&D project are the villains of this story. The rival school of Chimera College was Hellsing High, a school of monster hunters. I wanted to show humans and monsters murdering each other as outdated, so I made the Hellsing High principle old, a relic of a bygone age. And as you can see, these were all inspired by the 2004 Hugh Jackman version of Van Helsing, especially that big long coat of his. When I remembered this guy, monocle over one eye patch over the other, I knew I had what I needed for my D&D one-shot. You are a monster, an outcast without friends or family, shut off from the outside world until one day you receive a letter delivered by a ferocious hellhound. The letter specifies a time and a place. The place is a dilapidated temple that stands alone in the boundless boneyard, a graveyard that stretches across endless fields and hills. The time is early in the evening on Shadow Weave, the one night of the year when the 2 moons of this world come into alignment, weakening the barriers between worlds and allowing shadows, ghosts, and ghouls to traverse between planes. You enter this cathedral to some forgotten god. Other monsters and beasts arrive too, but none know who has summoned you until a shadow appears. A silhouette of inky black carrying a hooked staff. It raises a hand towards you. Pardon the skullduggery. Fingers snap and the shadows lift. The hand no longer seems bony, instead it is furry. And the scythe-like staff the creature was holding is now a curved cane, striped white and red. A furry face grins at you with yellow eyes and teeth. Hello everyone. I'm the Grunge. You've probably heard about me. A few years ago, I led a very successful holiday-related heist, learned valuable lessons, yada yada yada. My actions nearly caused the interplanetary collapse of worlds, so now I'm heading an organization dedicated to preventing such calamitous events. That is where you come in. You're familiar, no doubt, with the famous monster hunter Vin Helsong. He spent the last 80 years killing our kind, and it seems he does not trust his granddaughter to carry on his legacy, because in his waning years he's contrived to create a permanent end to the problem that is, well, us. He's constructed a device that will upset the motions of the very moons, preventing the eclipse from ever occurring again and shutting the passages from this material plane to all others. I need not tell you the devastation this would bring to our kind. And also, moving the moons, it'll probably fuck with the tides or something, I don't know. I'm not an astronomer. I've gathered you here because you all have certain skills and, I believe, a vested interest in preventing Hellsong's plan. Your mission will be to infiltrate the masquerade ball at Hellsong's Manor this very evening, locate the eclipse engine, and disable it by any means necessary before he can disrupt the eclipse at midnight. So tell me, are you in? That's the start of the adventure. I'm not giving away the whole plot in case you're actually playing it, but I will let you know that the players also get some magic items based on various horror franchises, and they might also run into Hellsong's granddaughter, who has definitely read a few too many paranormal romance novels. Our Halloween session went really well, and I've since playtested this with a second group as well. Both times I've used these disorganized notes, and of course I had things I wanted to tweak afterwards, so all that remains is to complete those changes and lay it all out in an easily digestible fashion. As someone who came to Dungeons & Dragons late, I was surprised by the bad layout in the official D&D books. It's a dense rule set and you're given little help to navigate it. Compare that, for example, to Eco Mofos, where each section is color-coded to help you find where you're going. Or compare D&D's endless text with the splashy design choices of Mörk Borg and its many spin-offs, where each spread is dripping with style and flavor that informs your understanding of the game and of the world. I'm particularly fond of this acid western game where the rules sit alongside advertisements for in-world products and places.
Horses, gluttonous relics of the past. Ever drank whiskey out of a shoe? Don't think I can say that on YouTube.
I wanted to make fun layouts like these, but I never opened InDesign before this in my life, and just like last year, Halloween is approaching fast. If I spend more than a single day turning this into a PDF, neither this video nor the zine will be out by Halloween. Usually I might spend a day just picking fonts, but I guess that's why I have so many unfinished projects, like Chimera College, like the actual play podcast I recorded in 2017. I said I'd share what I learned in the making of this, and it's a lesson I have to relearn with every project. Perfect is the enemy of good. I'm gonna call this version 1.0, and I can always update it later, maybe for next year's Halloween. But there's one thing I couldn't put on hold: the name. I couldn't think of anything that captured what I was going for until I came up with a party full of monsters. Get it? Because they're going to a party, but also they're an adventuring party that's full of monsters. And I don't have time to think of a better one, okay? Like, it's Halloween in a week, less than a week as I'm recording this. I'm so running out of time.
That explains that.
You can download this mini module and the character sheets on my website, awesomepedia.org. There will be a normal version of the PDF as well as one where the pages appear completely out of order. That's so you can print it out double-sided and staple it together like I'm showing here. All these materials are free. I really hope that you enjoy them, and please let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to help me make more projects like this and videos, please consider making a one-time donation, or even better, setting up a recurring donation at awesomepedia.org/support. Right now, I'm trying to do creative work full-time as much as I can, and I don't have the resources to keep that up forever. But I can tell you this, I will keep going until I literally run out of money. So anything you can spare really does extend that timeline. If donating isn't possible for you, please don't worry about it, but maybe you could take a moment to share this video or my zine with someone you think would like it. This project has really reignited my passion for game design, and I hope to be able to share additional TTRPG projects with you alongside my usual documentaries about technology and culture. You can subscribe if you want to, but subscriptions don't really matter. Instead, you should follow the RSS feed on my website. Happy Halloween.
They treat Casper like ghosts when it suits. They have, vacuums on their back, and they come up to me and they say, "Ghostbusters, do." I say, "I'm not a ghost, I am a ghoul." And they say, "Get into the vacuum." I said, "No, I am corporeal. Cannot get into your vacuum, you strange man with your silly car."